There's a lot of news. New games, massive prequels, even massive reprints, and Pandemic Season 0! I'm Matthew Jude, and this is Cult of the News. Board game news. It's all very exciting. Loads I want to talk about. Pandemic Season 0. And while that's pretty much all we know about the new Pandemic Legacy game, it is super exciting. There was a leak on Reddit, it was all very surreptitious, but after that quickly came an official teaser trailer, which is more teaser than trailer.
Roger, on Union 121.
But it was very dramatic, I'll give it that. Every end has a beginning is the tagline. It's also a statement so vague that it doesn't really say anything, does it? While still remaining technically correct, like everything happens for a reason or Matthew, I don't want to marry you. But it's definitely a prequel. I think it looks like it's going to be set in the 1950s. But I don't know. And it's suspected to be the final game in the Legacy trio. Also, I'm still on February of Season 1. February being a notoriously long month. Who knows what's going to happen? And I'll be back with more news on it when it comes out. And my guess, and this is a guess, is that it will be out sooner rather than later. Also, Rodney told me he's doing a rules video for it, which means I now need to look up the breaking and entering rules for Canada. Fantasy Flight have announced Lord of the Rings Anniversary Edition. The original Knizia dice rolling cooperative romp across Mordor was released 20 years ago. And so Fantasy Flight have decided it's time for an update, a return of the ring if you will. And it's been promoted as a faithful recreation, a clone's war if you will. That now includes beautifully sculpted plastic miniatures for the Hobbits, Sauron, the Threat die which is fairly ominous, and a mini for the One Ring. I'm not really into Lord of the Rings, which isn't a problem, we all like different stuff. That's what makes a rich tapestry of life worth living. But I have been tempted before by a Lord of the Rings game, like some type of corrupted hobbit. That being the Confrontation, which is an absolutely fantastic game. If you have the deluxe version, message me. Both my kidneys work most of the time. For my love for Knizia games has me looking at this thinking maybe I am the one. Maybe I can take the code back to the source and free everyone from the Matrix, if you will. The new Anniversary Edition will be released in Q4, so my guess is an Essen release. Whatever that means this year. In some role-playing news, if you put your arm like that, you look a bit like an elephant. But there's also a game I've been very excited about since a vague tweet a month ago that's finally on Kickstarter. And that's Jiangshi, Blood in the Banquet Hall. In Jiangshi, you play as a group of Chinese immigrants running a family restaurant by day. By night, however, you have to deal with the hauntings of the Jiangshi, which are horrible, nasty vampire things. In the game, 3 to 5 players and a game master will play over a course of days. And during the day, you have to do all the things you need to do to keep a restaurant going. Taking care of customers and the issues dealing with the real social climate of 1920s Chinatowns in America. And that's made worse by the night phase, where the Jiangshi come out and attack. The game makes use of a pool of d8s to determine the outcome of the roll, with 4s cancelling out the highest number. The outcomes will then drive the decisions of the game, but so will the development of stress that manifests as bad dreams and illnesses to turning fully into a creature of the night. It can be played as a mini-series or as a one-shot, and it's about overcoming adversity as a group. And the cover art was done by Kwanshai Moria, so it looks awesome. If that sounds good to you, then I highly recommend going over to their Kickstarter, where there are previews and loads of other information on the campaign. It's running for a few more weeks and aims to deliver physical copies by December. Ascension is coming to Kickstarter in the form of Ascension Tactics, the deck building miniatures game. Look, I love me a bit of Ascension, but ever since it came to digital and I can play it on the train instead of staring out the window with a wistful look of ennui, I've not needed to play the physical game. And now that might be changing because I really like the look of Ascension Tactics. Tactics seems to be the melding of the deck building and card play that I love in Ascension mixed with a tactical miniatures game, which I really want to love. The only issue I really have with it is that it says that there are over 250 cards and limitless possibilities. but I made that out to be 8,468,125,050 possibilities. But still, that's a lot of possibilities. You do have to concede that point. The game comes with 38 miniatures, a massive cards, a double-sided board, as well as a bunch of other board gamey type stuff, bits and bobs. I imagine it comes in a box. And for the low price of $7,500, 4 people will have their likeness made into a mini for the game. And all I want is to be a promo in viticulture, Jamie Stonemaier. And a couple of bottles of wine would be nice. In more upcoming Kickstarter news, there's more upcoming Kickstarter news. Mainly that Mythic Games announced that towards the end of the year, there'll be a project launched to turn Darkest Dungeon into a board game. Darkest Dungeon is a turn-based RPG where you have to get out of, a dark dungeon. It's tactical, intense, actually it's incredibly in-depth and challenging with multitudes of characters, classes, items and effects. Oh, and also an entire dungeon of foes to vanquish. My guess is that the Kickstarter will be launched around the same time as the Darkest Dungeon sequel is released in December. But either way, I'm hoping this lures some more video gamers into our own dungeon. The dungeon of board games. Which, now that I say that out loud, isn't as alluring as I'd hoped. In awards news, the Dice Tower Awards were announced during their summer spectacular. Their awards are the culmination of over 70 contributors to the Dice Tower network who all add games to the long list of categories, then there's votes for the short list. It's all very technical, but the result is a vote that reflects the community rather than just the opinions of one person. If you do want the opinion of just one person, then play The Crew. It's the best game ever. Wingspan, of course, took home the Game of the Year, as well as Best Game from a New Designer. Best Co-op went to Horrified, and Best Expansion went to the Quacks of Quedlinburg, the Herb Witches. Best Family Game went to Point Salad, Party Game went to Wavelength, and Strategy went to Maracaibo. But Detective, Prêt-à-Porter, Cloudspire, Parks, Res Arcana, Watergate, and Journeys into Middle-earth all took home awards as well. And you can find out more over on the Dice Tower's YouTube channel, where you can watch the whole ceremony. And while I did vote in those awards, no one else wanted to join me in my protest vote for Amitis. The Book of Carcassonne is the next news I have for you. Steve D and Dan Chard are bringing out strategy guide books to board games, and the Book of Carcassonne is their way to help you improve your tile laying skills, as well as all the history of the game, as well as interviews. I love Carcassonne, and my brother is some kind of Carcassonne wizard who I hate. So, if you're like me, then this book might be the thing to give you the edge that you need. Do you have any news? Specific board game related news? Then I want to hear about it. Send an email over to news@watchitplayed.tv. Maybe you foiled Stefan Feld's plot to destroy the Nakatomi Plaza. Maybe you saw Rodney Smith befriend a goose. Let me know. And our final story this week is all about Pendulum, not the Australian drum and bass band, though that wouldn't be the end of the world. Propane Nightmares, anyone? What a banger. Stonemaier Games have a new Stonemaier game. It came out of nowhere, it's designed by first-time designer Travis Jones, and has been described by Stonemaier as appealing to people who enjoyed the time management of Tzolk'in and the simultaneous play of Seven Wonders. In Pendulum, players are powerful nobles vying to succeed as the timeless king. Of course, there are 4 tracks to work up: power, prestige, popularity and legendary achievements. And all this time I've just been concentrating on popularity and failing like an idiot. Time is a resource and there are sand timers in the box. It's 1 to 5 players and I'm excited about it. Pre-orders are open now and it's delivering in August. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Cult of the News. I'm Matthew Jude, and this episode of Cult of the News was in memory of Stephen Buonocore. Oh, no, he's not dead. Sorry, I admit that made him look like it. No, he's sorry. He's just retiring. My bad, sorry. Taking his place is Sydney Engelstein of the Engelstein dynasty. So congratulations are in order for her, as I'm very confident she'll do a great job for Stronghold Games.